Hi.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Orgamites Mighty Education program. I would like to introduce our speakers tonight. It's Prof. David Thomson. He's an ICU specialist and an abdominal transplant surgeon leading the Transplant Center of Excellence project at Groote Schuur, as well as Dr. Karen Walstra, EduTech integration consultant and mother of a transplant recipient. And myself, Stella de Kock, I'm the managing director of TEL, Transplant Education for Living Legacies, and I'm a renal patient as well. So we're going to have a quick look at the Orgamites video. It's about a 2-minute video, if I can remember correctly, so do enjoy.
Hello, I'm Captain Marrow, leader of the Orgamites. I'm here to introduce you to the Orgamites Mighty Education Program for kids ages 5 to 11. The only global organ donation and health education program of its kind. Meet the rest of the team. Together, we are the Mighty Organs, dedicated to inspiring people everywhere to connect with and appreciate the life-saving power of their organs, create healthier habits, and spread kindness too. To help teachers make this come alive for their students, our fun, fact-filled toolkits are as easy to teach as 1, 2, 3. Which reminds me, Toolkit 1 is called Mighty Me. Getting students to better appreciate their bodies is the first step to better health. So on this educational adventure, we start by looking under the hood to discover what organs are, where and what the vital organs do, why the mighty organs are more than just special, and how to look after them. Along the way, kids learn some truly jaw-dropping facts and find out all about the life-saving powers of organ donation and transplantation. Toolkit 2 is called Mighty Habits. The earlier in life we start practicing healthier habits, the higher the chances these habits will stick and the greater their long-term positive impact will be. How strange, then, that hardly any attention is given to teaching kids why habits are important, how they're formed, and what the most important healthy habits really are. In this educational escapade, we highlight the 5 mighty habits all kids everywhere need to know in order to lead mighty, healthy lives. And, of course, we'll be sure to show how their mighty organs, that's us, play a crucial part in all of this. Last but not least, Toolkit 3 is called Mighty Kind. In this one, we move beyond the health of our own bodies and show how we can work together to make the world a healthier, happier place. It's called the Mighty Kind Movement, and everyone's invited. Yes, even you. Anchored in practical, simple activities everyone can do. Students learn why and how kindness is changing the world. For good. There you have it, the Orgamites Mighty Education Program. Together, let's empower our children to become champions of their health today and for generations to come. Orgamites Mighty Education Program.
I hope you enjoyed the video. It's the Mighty Orgamites. So how did the program start? The Orgamites is a free educational toolkit that's used for kids between 5 and 11 years old. It was created by Royden Turner, and he basically launched it in 2016. And the most important part of the Orgamites is they call it What's Inside. So you're going to learn more about how the program can be implemented for teachers, parents, families, as well as healthcare professionals.
Cool. So how did it get to South Africa? There's two people who came across it. Myself, I came across the Orgamites as a toolkit at a conference I was attending overseas, and there was a poster up about this really cool resource, and I went down a rabbit hole and was talking to the person manning the stand, and that was actually someone from Canadian Blood Services. So Royden is a marketing executive who was asked to help a donor family find a heart for a patient on the waiting list, which is not something you can actually do because you can't time someone else's tragedy. And he realized that it was a much bigger educational need, and stepped into the space and really developed these fun and engaging tools to make the conversations happen. Because I think actually at its core, Orgamites is a conversation starter. And all we want is people to be having educated conversations about it and being able to make a decision. But we can't put it off until the last minute. Then it doesn't work out. So we need to make sure that this is something in our national discourse that we talk about, that we know about, and that we're able to make empowered decisions from it. And then Stella also came across it through a nonprofit contacts and a connection, because the material's also in use in Northern Ireland, and turns out it's also widely in use in Greece. So we found this, and we've linked up through the professional society in South Africa. And then we stepped into a launch event. So we managed to bring Canadian Blood Services over for a pediatric conference, because again, you can get excuses to travel for conferences. And we actually piggybacked the Orgamite launch onto a conference that was being held at the Cape Town International Convention Center, and Prof McCulloch helped facilitate that. And then as part of the launch, all that happened was the schools were emailed, would you like to engage with this? Would you allow us to come and film? And we'll send some support. And the teachers can use the toolkit in the lesson. And we actually created a heart mascot that put a little small human being in it that really did engage with the children. And what was so empowering about that was the teachers just ran with the material and got such positive engagement, be it in an art lesson, be it one of these toolkits looking at mighty habits, or just the power of our organs inside us and what they do. So those were really positive engagements. And for me, I work in the medical space, and we adapted the content for South Africa. So the stories within the content for teachers are all there. And it's there's different layers to it. So there's a teacher's advice sheet, but Karen's going to give you all those insights. But it's been a really fun direction to go. And one of the things I want you to think about, and I mentioned it with a heart transplant, is actually children do need transplants too, and they actually need to be a size match to fit in. So unfortunately, the only way that we can actually have transplantation activity take place is if we're able to give a grieving family the option to support donation. And that decision is incredibly hard. And I work in that space in ICU, and it's a difficult thing for a family, for the doctors, for the whole team, the nurses looking after the patient. But if a family's had a discussion, if they've spoken about it, that can make that decision part be much easier. And just remember, being on the donor registry doesn't make that permission happen. There is always a conversation, and we always check with the family before we're able to proceed for donation. And we can only ever take it if someone doesn't need it, okay, for themselves. That's also an absolute requirement for donation to take place. We only take an organ from someone completely healthy to live the rest of their life without that one extra kidney, or it's from someone, unfortunately, at the end of their life in ICU, where we know we can actually help other people, but the brain is completely gone, and the person has been passed away by the other team, not by the transplant team. And that's why, if you boil it down to its fundamental basics, transplantation is actually just about knowing your organs, looking after them, and knowing that we have the power to be kind if that situation takes place. And actually, it's a decision. It's not something that you have to decide now. It's a decision that would get made in that time period. Here you can see some pictures from Red Cross and the artwork competition that we had. You can see transplant recipients. You can see Prof McCulloch from Red Cross engaging with the heart, because this is about kids, and kids are the conversation starter. They boil it down into that fundamental discussion. We don't need to make it more complicated. And I've realized out of this whole experience that we've been making it way too complicated. We need to boil it down to those fundamental basics of if you don't need it, it's possible to give it away. And we always need permission from the family in that situation. And then we can teach it, and it's fun to teach it. And the Orgamites are really engaging tools. And I'm going to hand over to Karen to take it further because she has a personal journey related to this. And as an educator, this is the same way it was taken up in Canada. It was a school teacher who actually realized the content had been created overseas and said to Canada, I want to use this in my classroom to help educate more.
So thanks, David. Yes, that's how I feel. I really was excited when I saw this product. So for me, how I got involved was my daughter Corinne was diagnosed when she was 1 with a chronic active autoimmune hepatitis. And we were actually told she would only be lived to about the age of 5 when she was born. She had her transplant when she was 32, so much older. And she lived an incredible life just in terms of that with her liver that was so very, very small. And so going through the process of Corinne having a living donor who was is an incredible soul in terms of just his time and giving of himself. For me, when I saw this product, I thought this is the kind of thing that can really make lessons exciting and fun. And so that's how I got involved with the organ donor with Orgamites. But from a child, my mother and father had spoken about being organ donors. It was always a discussion. And I think that's what's important. It's like David touched on that, having the chat, even when you were small. And I can remember as a small child in primary school, having the Organ Donor Association come to our school and talk to us. So even when we were little, so it's not a new thing. It's saying, how can we help people? And today the transplants and things are very different from when I was little. And yet it's something which we don't talk about enough, I don't think. And so I really think it's having those conversations and starting the conversations with our families. David, you muted.
Thanks. Sorry about that. Yeah, so here you can see a slide that we created for the launch. You can see the various Orgamites there, and I can tell you a little bit about them. The vast majority of people waiting for a transplant are dialysis patients, like Stella is, and Stella's been waiting over 10 years for an organ donor who's a match for her. And you can see that there's about 8,000 people accessing dialysis or having end-stage renal failure in South Africa. And then the other organs that don't have dialysis machines like heart, lung, liver, those waiting lists are unfortunately smaller because there's no fancy machines to keep people alive with those organ failures when it comes along. You try and nurse the organ along as long as you can, but sometimes the quality of life is so poor that you need to go for a transplant. So there you can see liver, you can see kidney. In the Orgamites, there's only one kidney, and I've had to dig deep to find the origin video. But in the origin video, there's a story that the other kidney was actually already donated as a living donor. And then why there's only one eye, the origin story video also just says you shouldn't play with sticks. It is also possible to donate your pancreas and your small bowel, but those programs aren't active in South Africa at the moment. So we have heart, lung, liver, and kidney. And then you'll see Captain Marrow's in charge. And stem cell and blood donation, that's possible. That's a really easy donor to do. That's not a big operation. That's just like a drip into a vein, and it's very simple. And the bone marrows need to be an exact match. So there's a whole system to be able to match you with a donor on the other side of the planet if you are the person to be able to save their life. And then corneas at my hospital at Grooterskloof and at Tygerberg round the corner in Cape Town. Every week there is a blind person who is able to see because someone donated their cornea, and they do an operation to replace that, and you give the gift of sight. And there are other tissues that can be donated in South Africa, burns, it's all part of our wonderful body, and there are parts that we can use to give to other people right at the end. So there's a real need. Those are the state of affairs in South Africa. And those are your mighty organs bouncing around there. Let's learn more about the toolkits.
Perhaps you want to just address the question that Joel's asking around, his discovery card says he's a donor. Who has the final say?
So your family always has the final say. And this often comes up because some countries have rules that say you're automatically a donor unless you sign out. In South Africa, the rule is you're not a donor unless you sign in. But actually, whatever your system is, the doctors at the end of life will be talking to your family. And if they object, they won't proceed. And that's across the board. Okay. It's really difficult with advanced wills to navigate those complex situations at the end of life. So it always comes down to us having a human discussion and connecting with the family. And that's why it's so important. And Stella's nonprofit is Transplant Education for Living Legacies. If we don't educate people about that part of the process, that we do need permission from the next of kin, it's written into our Health Act, then we can't proceed. So it's not like the doctors can ever just do it because they found a piece of paper. There needs to be engagement around it. Being on that, having that on your card and having expressed your intent makes that conversation easier. The doctors will ask, what would you have wanted to happen in this situation? And that makes it easier for a family to say yes. So do sign up on the register, but really, really have those conversations. Let people know what your wishes are and spread the word about it, because then that makes it much easier to happen. It's always an emotional time in the hospital.
Thanks, David. So if we look at the toolkit, you already saw that in the video. So there are these 3 amazing toolkits that you can use within your classroom space. So let's explore them a little bit further. So the first one is Mighty Me. So it's looking at your body in terms of your organs and really getting to know your organs. And for me, I think that's really important in terms of how do we teach children this, which can be really complex in a fun way. And I think this program does that just amazingly. So there's Captain Marrow, and there's the heart, and I see the pictures over the word, so not here, and small bowel, and the kidneys, and your pancreas, and the liver, and the lungs, and then the eyes are what's really included in terms of this kit and information around teaching children around that and how we can engage with them in terms of really fun hands-on activities. So when we look at this, let's explore how we can actually use this in our lessons. So the kit comes with a very wide range of resources. In fact, probably more than you would need in your classroom, and you can take bits and pieces of it and put it into your lessons. So for example, if we look at our curriculum and we look at toolkit number 1, you can see that in grade R, we talk about my body and identifying parts of the body. So it doesn't actually go into the internal organs, but we could. Why not? And grade 2s talk about your body, including the heart, the lungs, and the brain, and so forth. So including the other organs could make a lot of sense to fit into that. And then in grade R, they even talk about the functions of the different parts of your body. And so you could then be talking about that in terms of your little children. In grade 5, you talk about skeletons. They don't specifically just do humans. They do all sorts of animals, but they talk about how the skeletons protect the organs. And for me, that could be a really fun way in introducing the organs and talking to children around that. In grade 4, also talking about the structure of animals, and that you could then talk to that humans are also an animal and how we've got organs within that space. Then also looking at body image or a self-positive concept, so how our organs relate to that can all be topics that we could include related to Toolkit 1. Then Toolkit 2 talks about the 5 mighty habits for a healthy lifestyle. And so the first one is to get moving and grooving. So talking about phys ed, talking about doing exercise, taking part in sport. Eat good food is your second one that it refers to. So how do we encourage children to eat healthily? What does it mean to be healthy? Healthy food doesn't have to be boring. So getting the children to be involved in that. And then I love this one, take a break from screens. Those of you who know me, you know I'm really into teaching teachers about digital tools and how do we use them responsibly. So teaching children to be responsible users of digital tools for me is a habit I really think we need to address. And then drinking more water, I think, is really important. I think in every classroom we should allow a bottle of water with the child to be drinking, that we shouldn't just be drinking at breaks or before lessons, that the children can be drinking during lessons. And then making sure that children have enough time to sleep. So recharge your sleep. For me, these 5 habits are really useful, meaningful, and can really change the way we are as individuals. If we then look at the curriculum, you can see how nicely this topic fits in. And there are so many. I haven't even included all of them. So healthy eating comes across the curriculum in a range of different ways. Talking about healthy living as a whole is something that comes across also in more than one topic. Going up into grade 5 and grade 6, it talks about self-management skills. And I think these habits talk beautifully to self-management and how you can actually look after yourself. So taking responsibility of the things for yourself rather than somebody telling you what to do. They also tie in really nicely with the physical education program. So that's all the grades. And there are a range of different phys ed lessons that talk to the different parts of the body, the importance of looking after your body. That also comes across in the lessons there, not just doing the physical exercise. So for me, this really is meaningful and can tie into the curriculum really, really nicely. Then the third one talks about being mighty kind. So having the power of kindness. So are you ready to change the world with 5 things? So being kinder, for me, is something that I see more and more. I'm involved with a program of online safety, and we keep hearing about bullying and cyberbullying and children being nasty and taking out their phones and using that almost to embarrass other people. So for me, being kind is something we really need in the world. So how do we drive the kindness? And then how do we look at our whole lifestyle in terms of being kind? And can we become organ donors in terms of our lifestyle and saying giving to others? But the way this is achieved through the program is making children aware just generally of, are you reducing the waste you use? Are you reusing waste? And for me, that then makes it really practical in terms of, are we being kind to our environment? Are we being kind to the world we're living in? And then talking about recycling. So are you recycling at home? Is there a recycling program at school? How are you doing that to be kind? Both to you as a person so that you're not walking in litter, that your environment is clean and tidy, but also so that you're giving back in terms of society. And then how are we upcycling? And for me, upcycling is always exciting. So those of you who also know me know I taught design and technology. So how are we getting children to think and be creative and explore that part of themselves by upcycling things? So for me, looking at the 5 things as a whole, in terms of reduce and reuse, recycling, upcycling, those pull in so beautifully to I'm helping others. How from myself am I helping others in terms of me? When I don't need my body anymore, how can I help somebody? And there are also organs that you can give as a living donor. So maybe if you're healthy enough and you can, how do you do that? And then the last one is how can you be kind to being kind to others in all of these spheres? So for me, these 3 toolkits are just incredible. And then when we look at the curriculum, there are a range of ways in which being kind comes across. So looking at life skills where it's myself and others, how do I respect other people? How do I get on with other people? There are also topics around pollution and care for the environment in terms of natural sciences, looking at recycling, What about our relationships with others? So all of those are being kind. How are we being polite? Have we got manners? And so the list goes on and on in terms of how we can be kind. So for me, these 3 tools can really be meaningfully used in the classroom. The exciting thing for me about these is that there is a wide range of resources. So there are videos that you as the teacher can use. There are lesson plans that are already planned out that you can use just like that, or you could choose pieces of those if you wanted to. There are also interactive presentations. So there are presentations that you can download, but there are also these really cool additional resources. There are games that you can download and play, like Match the Card, or you could use it as a discussion kinds of points. There are little cards which give you information. There are a range of coloring in sheets that you can use as discussion points or information sections. There are posters that you can download that you can use in your classroom, that you can put up and actually have the information there, that it stays within the classroom space and makes it interesting. And then there are a whole lot of things that the toolkits call objects. These are science experiments that you can do with the children in a range of different ways, using easily available resources that can make the lessons really fun and interactive. So for me, the tools are just incredible in terms of how they've been put together and how we can really be thinking about ourselves as people who care for ourselves and for others. And so really, really being organized. I've created a SACE endorsed course. It's worth 5 points, and this will be available on the Teacher Inspire website within the next few weeks. So we'll put it out there and we'll put comments on these recordings when it is available, that you can go and find it there too. So you could use the resources. It'll tell you a bit more about the resources that you can use there as well. So how are you involved with being mighty kind? What are the kinds of things you are doing? And what are the kinds of things perhaps you as a teacher wants to consider in terms of why you should include this, how it could be of benefit to you in your class, but perhaps to your school as running a campaign or having a discussion or getting others involved in the space. So the mighty approach really looks at how do we get involved within the space. And so with all of these different tools, there are also these incredible coloring in hearts that really can get the children to think. These are some from the campaign that David and them ran a few weeks ago. David, perhaps you want to talk about the hearts and the reaction you got from the children when they were doing these. You muted.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, it was really inspiring to see this. There wasn't much priming of the children except to know you can donate, and it can be tissues and organs. And then this was part of an exchange of artwork between Canadian children and South African children. We only put the South African ones up here because they were by far and away more vibrant. Our flag is much better. Monochromatic red and white doesn't do children justice. So here you can see the artworks and how they put in and incorporated the Orgamites. But it was really nice to see the range of how children would interpret it and create an artwork. And that's just such a simple premise, but it occupied them, it engaged them, and they were outdoing each other in the art field. And I have to say, we piloted this material at the Science Center as well. They let us run a little half-hour toolkit, and I've tested this material in front of young children, and I have to say I'm not quite used to an audience that heckles as much, especially when they start to outdo them. I don't get exposed to that in my medical lecturing career, but it's really inspiring to see the engagement and how the questions can come in, and the questions are just fundamentally basic, and I think everyone can empower them. I think people think, oh, you have to be a medical professional in order to be able to speak about this. But these toolkits are really just so user-friendly.
I really agree with you from that point of view. I mean, it's August, And Stella, maybe you want to talk to Organ Donor Month, but for me, maybe taking these hearts and getting your children in your school to be South African proud and talk about organ donation and having a colouring in competition just for fun to get the children thinking around something like that.
Yes, so, August, or it's National Organ Donor and Tissue Awareness Month. And the main aim of the month is to really highlight organ and tissue donation and to have the discussion. But also, it's very important not just to have the discussion during August. It's actually right through the year, and to have the discussion more than once, because when you have the discussion with your family and friends, you will understand that they have either different viewpoints or they have questions. And especially people immediately think religion, and most religions are pro organ and tissue donation, and then there's a lot of myths also. So during August, we really try and reach out to the media and to healthcare professionals to highlight the importance of having this discussion, demystifying the process of organ and tissue donation. Because if everyone understands the process, then it's easier to support it and really then at the end of the day make an informed decision. Because that is really, really important, is that when you make the decision, you can know that it's an informed decision and to support organ and tissue donation.
I agree that we should be having these discussions more. There's a cool comment. So, Kaylee, thank you for your comment that says, loving the chat, beautiful artwork and fantastic toolkit. I've been aware of Orgamites for a time now. I'd like to be involved and share my story to aim to get into schools here in the UK. So, Kaylee, that would be brilliant. You could get hold of me. So I'm on LinkedIn. David also is, and you could link with us over there, and we can drop a chat with you, and we can see how you can be involved and what you can do from a UK point of view. We could also introduce you to Royden and see how you can get involved there. So thanks for that comment. That's really, really nice. Thank you very much. David, talk to the pledge and why you think the pledge is so important for people to consider, and why its role is relevant.
Well, this was an edition that Royden put in, and I really found it quite powerful just to read through it, because it does just make it down to those basics. So our world is precious and fragile too. I commit to look after it, and I take the long view. I'll try to recycle and put litter in bins. I'll upcycle too and reuse my things. Every person is special, whether old or young. We all just want to love, so I honor each one. I'll treat all people I meet with respect every day and be as kind as can be in my own unique way. My body is mine and it's perfect for me. I'm thankful for it. I'm proud as can be. I pledge to look after it and be kind to each part, from my head to my toes, from my kidney to my heart. And if one day these parts I don't need, you can pass them along as my final good deed. After all, it's not our looks or clever tricks that astound. We're all beautiful and precious. It's inside what counts. So it just boils it down. I don't think people can argue with that as a message that we want to teach our kids. And then it is about talking about it and getting comfortable with it and trusting it. And I think we do have to empower people to go out and debunk those myths. I work in this space. I see the life-changing benefit. Karen's obviously seen it even closer from a parental viewpoint as well. And it really does make a difference to have people championing it. And we need a critical mass of people supporting it. And then we can make it a society norm that really makes it something that's much easier to address and engage with. And the kits are so good, because now you're teaching people about sugar, and they have a pancreas that they can now feel sorry for when we overload it. And then they know that the liver is the battery that processes the sugar, and then it's trying to control it up and down. And it really adds that little dimension to empowering the knowledge of kids of those engine parts that are making it happen, and that these have characters, and they are life-altering parts in a bigger engine. So yeah, I really like the pledge. I think it's really nice and honest, and it's just another expression of art in this space. Like that's poetry. The artworks we've seen, we can be so creative in this space and communicate such positive messaging.
Yeah, that's so very true. And I think we need to get the children to become more creative. I think often the way we teach is we forget the creative bits and just want to put all the knowledge into them. But if we do it in a fun way, they actually remember it better. So as we're ending off, is there anything you want to add around the getting involved or what we can do next? How do you think people can share? What are the kinds of things you think schools or people could do? I don't know who wants to take. Stella, if you want to say something, and then David, what thoughts have you got?
Yeah, I think the first one is, as a family, have the conversation, but also, tell the kids' teachers and community centers and healthcare professionals about this resource that is available to use, and it's free to use, and it's specifically for South Africa, the orgamites.co.za. But if there's anything else that people want to know, they can also go to TEL's website. It's tell.org.za, and have the conversation, because in South Africa we've got the highest rate of kidney failure in the world, and the average waiting period is 12 to 15 years for the O group. So, and that includes kids, and kids really wait a long time for an organ transplant, but it's life-saving and life-changing. I mean, the amount of stories, and David can attest to it, that the moment that a kid gets transplanted, they're so happy to pee. That's the first thing. But they suddenly, have energy to live their life. For instance, the one little boy, he said now he can play soccer and he's got energy to go and visit his friends. And, at a birthday party, he can drink, the cool drink, which wasn't possible before a kidney transplant.
Yeah, I think so as well, Stella. It really is about those conversations. And Pamela said it really nicely here. It's not just for kids, but it's for adults too. And I really think we're using children to be the conversation starters, because when we boil it down at this level, it's so wholesome to engage around it. So that's what I really think. It'll be really good to use these toolkits. There's family resource kits. It tells you in the teacher education kits how different children can react and how you as a teacher can respond to those type of questions. And we don't have to be intimidated by the questions. I think in the science center, when the parents were sitting next to them, the children were all in, and I could sense a degree of where is this going from the parents. And then actually by the end of it, with just using this material, that the point comes across. This is not brainwashing. This is just actually education and empowerment of our children so that we can all make informed decisions at that point. And just knowing about the true power within us is really, that's where the positive messaging is. And there's so much positive spin-offs. And I think the way it's packaged with those mighty habits, to look after it, the knowledge about what your organs do and how you can look after them, and then that broader context of being kind. And one of the more powerful ones, and much more for the older children, is one of the case studies where they tell you a little bit about each child's little personal journey. And then the actual task you could give a child to write is, how would you write a thank you letter to that family about what this meant to you? And if you think we try and facilitate that between all donors and recipients, that there is an anonymous exchange of letters of just thank yous, because it's just such a powerful loop to close in terms of what it means to be able to donate, and empowering children to be able to think empathetically that way. I really think those are things we want to be teaching our kids, and the Orgamites really gives us that vehicle to do it so well.
Yeah, so as we close, what are the kinds of things you want to to allude to? So you've already spoken about the tools. Is there anything else you want to add as we finish off?
I just think you can do it. I think take this content, engage with it. Don't be afraid of it. I think I've done lots of engagements, and it's like, oh, okay, can you come and give the talk? And always happy to support. But that's a very rate limiting step. And this is going to extend the reach, because we can make everyone a champion of education in this space using this toolkit. It's so well structured and thought out and engaging. So just that you can do it. And I really liked your slides, Karen, that said you can do this. Parents, teachers, children, we can do it.
Yeah. Stella, how would you like to end?
Yeah, I would just say that it's fun, it's colorful, and it's not intimidating. So you can scale it, from a 5-year-old to an adult. Everyone can learn something from this content. So please do go and have a look, and enjoy it, because it is really a fun educational tool.
So I just want to say, go and play. Go and make your lessons fun. As parents, go and look at the parent section. We haven't spoken about that much tonight, but there's a whole parent section with tools and ideas for you too. You log in, you get 48 hours free time to download, but you can do that again and again and again and again. It doesn't just allow you for that once. So go and explore, tell other people about it, and really let's have the conversations. Have the conversations about things which we might think is difficult, but just address it. The little 3-year-old that goes, why? That's what we need all our children to be saying. So let's just have fun and spread the word. Thanks, everyone. Have a good evening. Good night.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Stella.